Hello there, welcome to Genesis Models. My name is Bobby Waldron and welcome to this nice sort of maintenance video of compressors. I'm doing this because I've actually found a leak on it and I thought it'd be a great video in which to show you how to maintain your compressor and keeping it all functioning right, because I've not done that and I've ended up having a bit of a blowout on my tank. So it's going to be a good sort of video to show you the whole reason why we should maintain our compressors. So before I get started, I just want to sort of show you my setup, because I haven't really fully shown you my compressor setup and why I set it up the way it is. Right, the one thing with airbrushing is you get moisture being pumped through the compressor into your tank, and that moisture can go up to your airbrush and you can sometimes have a little splurt of water blast out onto your model. Really not good if you are spraying things like enamels, right? And I used to have that when I had a cheap compressor. So just to show you my setup, because I've never had that problem ever since I've had this setup. Now the setup is, yes, we've got a compressor, right, and it's by Sparmax. It's the TC 5000, and what we have here is we've got a compressor just inside here, and then we have the tank itself. Buying guide, whatever you do, always make sure you buy a compressor with a tank. It just helps with the durability of your compressor and stops it from overheating and potentially having to buy a new one. The way it works is you'll find that when you buy a compressor, some of them will have the regulator, which is just here, a nice little regulator which kind of you can set your PSI and everything. The regulators sometimes are actually attached to the compressor itself, and what this does, although these regulators, they do have these moisture traps just here, what can happen is it can, because it's attached to the compressor, it can still get past these water traps, and what happens is it goes down into your airbrush and splurts out water. So the setup I have, which is a really good setup, is you have a hose going from the compressor. You see this hose just here goes from the compressor to your regulator, and what this does is the moisture that comes through your hose has to go through this hose first before it gets to the regulator, and as it travels through this hose, right, the moisture can get trapped, and by having your compressor on the ground and having your regulator just a bit higher, the moisture can then travel back down and into your tank, right? And note that it is a coiled hose as well. The coil helps the moisture travel around these coils and take a longer distance and bouncing off and around these coils, so as it can then come back down and back into your tank. And then you've also got your regulator with the water trap on there, and I've never had any water be blasted out my airbrush by having this setup. So it really is a good setup. The hose going from the regulator to the airbrush can be just a nice simple straight hose. Right, so now we come to the actual maintenance of a compressor, as well as finding leaks and how to sort of keep everything all nice and tight and nice and sealed without any leaks or anything like that. So what we're going to do now is, just underneath, you'll find on a compressor you'll have one of these, right? It's like a little sort of screw which you kind of screw out, and what happens is any moisture or water you can pour out of it. And what you're supposed to do is, you aren't actually supposed to drain the tank on a very sort of regular basis, because what can happen, and which I'm going to show you has happened with this one, is that water then rusts all the internals of the tank, and it can then rust down to a point where it blows out the tank and you get a little hole and your tank's almost done for. So just to show you that, but first off, what we want to do is actually remove all the air from the tank. So with all the air removed from the tank, I want to get a load of kitchen paper towels, because this is going to get messy, right? We're going to probably have a fair bit of water in here. I'm going to be totally honest with you, I haven't emptied mine in probably a year or two, which is very, very naughty of me, and as a result I've had a blowout. But there's probably going to be a load of water in here, maybe, but I have had a blowout, so maybe the water's come out that way. But if we turn this up, what we can do is we unscrew this just here. Right, and as you can see, looking quite nasty, gunky and rusty. We can sort of clean this up as well. Right, and what we should do is we get a kitchen paper towel over the hole, and then we sort of just shake it about a bit and get the water out, which I don't think there's a lot of water in here because I've had that little blowout, but you'd probably notice a lot of water coming out. As you can see, I haven't, because I've got a hole in my tank. But a load of rusty water would be coming out of here, and you need to do that, you know, as much as you possibly can. You know, even if it's like you've used the airbrush for a day, just open this up, pour it out, make sure you get all that moisture out. What you can do as well, which I like to do, is if we sort of hold kitchen paper towel on our little hole just here, we turn it on and we sort of let the air pressure itself actually sort of start to kind of push out any sort of water as well. So it's coming on and I'm holding it over here, and there you go, as you can see, it sort of blows it out a bit and you'll get more water coming out. Obviously in this case I've had a blowout, so I've not got much coming out, but you would have, you know, a nice bit of water coming out there. Also it sort of helps dry the inside out as well, right, because we're going to seal this up, and there we go, a little bit coming out there. Then we can turn this off, put the screw back on. Right, now what you've also got to look out for is, remember, if you're going to put a coil on, which is really recommended to stop any moisture going through all your system, is what we could actually do here is get any potential water that's maybe trapped in here. I mean, hopefully you've got your regulator high enough so it all drains down back into the tank, but maybe it quite isn't. So what we want to do is, let's get you on camera, is we want to screw this end off. Right, if we can, because I do have the, well, that is tight. I'll come back when I've got it off. So with this hose off, we now have our coiled hose coming from our compressor, and we have this end off here. So what should happen is, if we turn this on, let's get a bit of a kitchen paper towel actually, just in case. We turn it on, we're going to get compressed air now coming out of this end, right? So what you might want to do is hold your finger over it, maybe sort of hold this lower down so gravity can bring any sort of moisture down, and you should get a bit come through, which hopefully you can see a bit has come through there. Again, let's just turn this off. Again, what you got to remember is I've had a blowout, so all the water and moisture has come out of it, but you know, yours would actually kind of probably get a bit of water out of here, quite a bit of water out of the bottom plug. And then what we want to do next is we want to sort of move along with, you know, kind of trying to find leaks and maintenance and you know, getting our regulator apart and cleaning that up as well. So here's our regulator taken apart, just to quickly sort of show you. What you'll probably find is this screws onto there like so. Some of them will have this sort of metal guard so as to protect you from breaking it. Right, do be careful though, some of them can be like really tight, so maybe sort of get some gloves on and something to sort of grip it so as you don't crack it and sort of hurt your hand. But these just screw off, and plain and simply we can take this off, and we want to sort of clean out inside here. Maybe a bit of airbrush cleaner isn't gonna hurt, along with a kitchen paper towel, and we just get out any sort of this rust cleaned out like so, which is pretty sort of, you know, quite easy to sort of clean out. As you can see there, I'll give it a little bit more of a clean later. But that's your regulator sort of nice and cleaned out. That's your compressor, your tank, all nicely getting all the moisture out. Doing it as much as possible on a daily basis, a weekly basis. And you should keep your compressor all nice and clean and keep it more durable. What we're going to look at now is looking for leaks. So to look for leaks can be quite nice and simple, right? We've got all our connection hoses. We know there's going to be some sort of a leak at probably these different connectors. You know, as you could see, you know, any one of these potential leaks. So to find one, what we're going to do, we're going to sort of represent one here. So I'll just bring you in close. I'm just going to unscrew this just to the point where I can hear it just hissing out. If I can just get it to that point. There we go. And what we're going to do, nice simple solution. What I've gone off, a bit of lukewarm water, right, and I've mixed in here a bit of washing up liquid. Really sort of nice, simple. What we could do is if we paint this now over our connector, look at that, straight away it's just bubbling up, and that is just a clear, nice indication that we have a leak right there. Really sort of easy. So we now know that's what we need to do. We might need to tighten it up, or what is a good little tip, if I just actually turn the compressor off, and then let's just empty it, right? So with it empty now, we can actually take this now completely off, as you can see, just like so. And what we want to do, we want to sort of clean all this stuff that we got on here, which is actually, and this is the tip, some nice PTFE tape, some nice plumber's tape. Right, so I'm just going to remove the tape I've already got on here, just so we just make a nice new clean seal. So with the old stuff now all nice and removed, right, we can get this and simply let's just, you know, take a nice little bit off this. We don't need loads, right? And what we want to do is plain and simply just wind it around as probably as neat as you possibly can, like so. And there we go. So then what we can simply do now is get our hose, should be able to just thread this back on, and this plumber's tape is going to give you a really nice solid hard seal. Right, now I'm turning that, I could probably do with a spanner at this point. That's maybe a 10mm. Let's just get one out. Is that a 10mm? Ooh, or is it an 11mm? 1 second. Get a spanner on this. There we go. Using the spanner we can just nicely tighten it up as much as you can by hand. Right, and we shouldn't have any leaks on that at all, which we can turn the compressor on, we can get out our water and washing up liquid, paint that on there, and you'll see if you've got any leaks, and you'll know it's all nice and sealed. So really what you want to be doing is making sure you empty your tank, make sure you get all that moisture out, you know, check for any sort of leaks, use good old sort of PTFE tape to make sure everything's sealed, cleaning out your regulator, and you know, your compressor should last a lot longer. However, we're now going to look at, just to kind of show you exactly why you should be cleaning and emptying your compressor, because you're going to have things like this. So as you can see, we've now sort of taken this apart so we can actually work on this. But before we sort of show you the damage, I just want to sort of show you one last thing that I forgot. Just on here, you will see we have these filters, right? Don't forget them, they're quite easy to miss. They're a little bit hard to pull off, right? But there we go, right? We push this off, and what we have is a bit of sponge just inside here, hopefully, as you can see, and that's like a filter for the air going into the compressors, right? And we don't want that getting blocked up, because it kind of puts it kind of just sort of messes everything up. What you want to be doing is potentially getting something, anything. I'm using just like a little file here. You can see all this dried up sort of gunk in here in these little holes. We just want to poke them through, just so as our compressor can breathe that little bit more easily, as you can see just there. Maybe just sort of clean inside there. Then we have the sponge. The sponge has probably seen better days, so I'm actually going to show you how to make a new filter. All right, so let's move this out the way. We have this sponge, really good from Edard. You get it with the photo etch resin, really cool bit of sponge, and guess what? It is literally the exact size that we need. So what we want to do is we sort of place this on here as a template. We get out a blade and we just start to cut it to shape. I mean, there's probably somewhere you could probably potentially go off and buy these, but you know what, this sponge is so similar and so much the same, so why not? I'm going to use this, and we just want to sort of cut that to shape until it's as circle as possible. So as you can see, not quite a circle, but it is good enough for us to just nicely put this in here. It just fits with a nice snug fit, covers up all the holes so as our compressor can breathe a bit easier. We then want to come in, try and push this on. In this case it's a little bit hard to push, so using one of our modeling hammers just here, we can just tap that on and get it in nice and secure. So now we come to the whole reason why you need to maintain your compressor. So hopefully we can get this on camera and get you in as close as possible. Let's just maneuver this. Right, just down here you can sort of see this is why we take care of our compressor. You might be able to just see right there a little hole. Right, that is water getting inside, rusting inside and eating away at the metal until it just kind of pops out in like a little micro hole. Right, technically it doesn't ruin the tank. You probably at this stage, you know, your best bet really, buy a new tank, probably to be on the safe side, and just go for a new tank. I don't think they're that expensive. Might have to search around a bit to find solely the tank, but you do have other options. Option one, if you know a friend who can do stuff like welding, right, a little spot weld on that tiny little dot there, right, be really sort of quick and easy for any sort of welder to just go boom, one spot weld done. That should be nice and sealed. However, right, there is a way of doing it from the kind of tools and stuff that we have here in the workshop, and one of them is doing some soldering. So when it comes to soldering, probably not got like the best of solderer maybe. I mean, I just do a little bit of soldering. Really good to have a nice one that really gets up to temperature, but I'm just dealing with what we have to repair this. So getting out a nice file, a nice diamond files just here, you want to sand the surface, right? You want to sort of get it all nice and clean of any kind of debris, oils or anything, because they can sort of hinder your whole soldering, as well as it makes a really sort of nice rough surface for the solder to actually stick to and adhere to. Right, what you also want is something like this. We want a paste of solder paste. It just helps everything sort of stick and all those good things, as well as a soldering iron and some solder wherever I put it. Here we go, just here. So we've got our flux here, and I'm just going to try and sort of spread this on, which is a bit too pasty for me, so I'll just heat it up. Probably shouldn't, but hey. Getting a paintbrush maybe, right, nice old paintbrush. I'm just going to paint this on to the surface where we're actually going to be doing this. Right, so we've got that on there. I'll probably even dip it into the solder, the flux itself, to get a bit of solder on there. Now mine isn't the best soldering iron, admittedly. It does take a while to get up to temperature, but what you basically want to do is sort of hold your soldering iron on the area itself, kind of start heating it up, right, and then we get the actual solder itself and we just start to get it to stick. Right, and you just want to seal up the hole as nice as possible. Right, which I think, is that almost sealed? That is almost, that looks basically sealed there, but I'm going to just build up the solder and build up the solder right, to really sort of make a nice seal on it, right. And then you want to test it by just turning it on, see if it holds. Again, this may be sort of like a little bit, you know, scary, because if it isn't quite held on, you know, it might pop out or something. But if you do a nice good solder job, it does actually hold, because I did actually have an attempt earlier. It held really nicely. I then sanded all the solder away, which took quite a real while to kind of do. So, you know, you do a good job, it really does seal, and it should be good for, I don't know, however long. I'll let you know how long it lasts. But really, the point is really the main thing in a situation like this is probably best getting a new tank, or getting someone who can, say, spot weld it maybe. But all in all, you know, the whole point of all this is just make sure you empty your tank, make sure your filters are nice and clean, right? You know, seal up with the good old PTFE tape, the plumber's tape, you know, so you make sure everything's all nice and sealed, everything's all nice and clean, and your compressor should last you a hell of a lot longer. But hopefully you've enjoyed this nice little kind of a tutorial maintenance video on compressors. But as always, until next time, my name's Bob Waldron, this is Genesis Models, and I hope you've enjoyed.